Okay, so like I was saying, when I'm on stage this afternoon, the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to teach people the definition of financial freedom, because most people don't understand how much money they actually need to produce the freedom that they actually need or want in their life. What on earth is, dude, what are you doing? Joe Biden? The Joe Biden administration choices that you guys are making right now in government policy, is this making me wealthier or is this making me poorer? Let's find out.
One shot, now the future is yours. Go! I'm turning dreams into reality. Yeah, it's one shot, now the future is yours. Go!
All right, so we're going to talk about this brand new bill that Joe Biden's administration just passed. And really today's question, is it designed to make you poorer? Is it actually going to do what it's intended? Is it going to be a good thing? And we're going to dive into what it is. And for me, we got to start bottom line with what is the purpose of the government? It's to help you pursue life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness. And the question right now is that happening? Is that what the politics are actually saying? Or is this brand new act financially going to hurt us because we're already hurting with the rate of inflation the way that it is? The government's doing their best to control it. And will these things actually work? After 18 months of negotiating, the Senate and House passed the Inflation Reduction Act on Friday, August 12th. The vote passed the House 220 votes to 207, with all Democrats voting for it and all Republicans opposing it. The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, was formed as part of the budget reconciliation process and affects three major areas of change. And I'm telling you right now, I'm hoping that the Inflation Reduction Act actually will do something to reduce inflation. Let's find out. Now, the reason why today's video is called Will Biden Actually Make You Poorer is because we're all fighting against this inflation, the type of which we haven't seen since the 80s. This is $100,000, and if inflation is resting right at 9.1, that's almost like saying your buying power this year is being reduced by nearly 10%. So that's $10,000 that you can't spend on something that you could have a year earlier. If we don't get this turned around, guess what's going to happen to your money each year after? It's going to reduce, and reduce. And so right now, this bill that's just been passed, the question is this actually going to reduce inflation or could it actually increase it? Because every bill costs money. And on this bill, we're looking at right around $1 trillion.
We could make trillions.
Why make trillions when we could make billions?
So if that $1 trillion, which by the way increases the money supply, which also naturally increases inflation, doesn't actually do something to reduce inflation, well, then one could argue that Biden's actually making us poorer. The first part of the bill is to help the government collect more taxes. The question is on who? In an effort to raise more than $700 billion in government revenue over 10 years, the bill places a 15% minimum tax on wealthy companies, and it introduces a 1% excise tax on share buybacks. Now, I will tell you in the bill that they're targeting companies that are posting over $1 billion worth of revenue. And so a lot of us could say, well, boo-hoo, that certainly doesn't affect me. Let's go ahead and tax them. And in theory, we can. What it means is often those companies have the opportunity to do other government stimulating activities inside the IRS tax code. They could invest in infrastructure or do things that would for other companies produce a tax break. And the government is basically saying, hey, even if the IRS and our tax code allows you to get deductions, we're gonna make sure that your deductions can't actually fall below 15%. So this is designed to help raise a lot of money for the government. So why are we trying to raise all this money for taxes? Well, it affects the second area of the bill, healthcare. Another major portion of the IRA includes a list of changes that are intended to lower drug prices, including, and for the first time, allowing Medicare to negotiate some prescription drug prices with pharmaceutical companies. Me personally, I actually think that this is actually a pretty good thing because I think we all know that big pharma can get way out of hand with the money that they can charge. My two parents, they're elderly. My dad is turning 80 this year. My mom is in her late 70s. My mom has cancer, and there's certain medication that literally costs her $2,000 a month, and Medicare doesn't cover it because of certain rules that are written. And I think what we're trying to do here with healthcare is say, hey, we have to find a way to protect the people from big pharma that might be charging a lot of money cornering the market on some of their medical breakthroughs. The third part of the bill is for climate change. The bill will provide $260 billion in tax credits for renewable energy in order to bring down the cost of solar, wind, and other clean power sources. According to an independent analysis from the Repeat Project, the IRA could help the U.S. lower emissions to 40% below 2005 levels before the decade is out. Well, that comes straight from Morning Brew. And at the end of the day, I know this is something really important to the Biden administration as they want to get a handle on climate change. So why are we experiencing inflation right now? Is it because there's a war between Russia and Ukraine? Is it because of the pandemic catching up with the supply chain issues? Or could it also have something to do with the fact that the government's been printing trillions of dollars? In fact, we've been spending and printing at a rate we historically never have before. And right now, between all those different market forces, the one that the government will not own up to is that government spending is leading to this. This is another bill that is more spending. And one of the things that I have to ask myself is this bill designed to really help the people? Are we really accomplishing the objectives? Or are we working on political issues? Well, ultimately, the Inflation Reduction Act seems to run contradictory to actually reducing inflation. It's super ironic that it carries this name. Rather, it seems that the effort is trying to spend its way out of inflation and tax itself out of a recession. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office said that the bill would have a negligible effect on inflation this year and 2023. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, spending that kind of money is going to have a negligible effect. That goes right in line with what's been said in the news previously, which is what? What makes you think that printing trillions of dollars affects inflation at all? And for me, that's just irresponsible. I wish they would actually own up to it. I wish that they would actually do the appropriate studies and talk about how much money you can print before you start hurting you and me in our financial spending. Because ultimately, the government's place is to support me and not necessarily hurt me. But right now, inflation could end up hurting us for years to come.
It hurt and it kept hurting and now you're back.
What you need to do more than ever before is protect your assets. Ultimately, taking matters into your own hands will always yield better results than waiting for the government to fix things. There are several things that you can do right now to protect yourself, and I want to show you 3 of the main ones. And this is based on studies of what wealthy people do. I have patterned so much of my life based on what wealthy people do because financially I want to win in life. Just like I patterned my body on what my health coaches have taught me because I want to win in my health in life. I've patterned my marriage after other successful marriages and other counseling so that I can rock that world as well. Let me share with you what I've learned in the game of money. If you have a job and it's your only source of income, you're always going to be at risk. So there are 3 things that you should do to take matters into your own hands. The first one is you need to figure out how to own more real estate. Because where we have big inflation, potentially hyperinflation, guess what happens to real estate over time? It goes up in value. So that's a protective measure. The second thing that you should do is you should own businesses. Now, by the way, I didn't say that you should run businesses. I'm saying that you should own businesses because while real estate helps produce passive wealth for you, including tax benefits and appreciation, etc., owning a business actually produces active income, and owning businesses is the key to going from one income to many incomes. And the third thing that you should do is you should own pieces of other people's businesses. This means looking for the companies that are on the rise, looking for Netflix before it popped, or Google, or Amazon, or some of these other companies like Shopify that have taken off. There's a system for researching them so that you can get in on the major upside. Financially, if you look at what the wealthy do, they own real estate, they own their own companies, and they own pieces of other people's successful companies. Now, I've written this book, Have It All, and what it does is it actually shares not 3, but actually 5 things that you should do if you want to become financially free in under 5 years, or if you want to become what's called a self-made multi-millionaire. I used just one strategy in this book that literally made me financially free in less than 5 years. But in this book, I share all 5 strategies that you should do, where to find them, and how to access them. And today I want to make this book a gift for you. This book today costs nothing other than the cost of shipping. If you click the link below, I want to give you a copy of this book. And the reason why is because my life's work has been poured into this book, sharing the simple things that the wealthy do And it's not about creating wealth over 30 or 40 or 50 years. Most people aren't going to create wealth in 3 or 5 lifetimes because they don't have the power of compound interest working for them. In this book, let me show you ways to actually make it happen really quick, but even safer and more secure than like a 401k and IRA that's frankly never gonna get you where you wanna go. Click the link below, snag a copy of this as long as it's available, and let me show you the real secrets of building wealth and taking your financial future in your own hands. By the way, there are 5 ways for you to fight inflation, and if you want to know what they are, I made a video for you right here. Let me show you what all 5 of them are so you can protect yourself. A lot of people out there, tax situations where people are actually getting robbed, but they actually don't. So what are you doing? Listen up, Joe Biden. If you're, I have to redo this. It's the worst ever.